Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We're talking about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And I'm here today with Mike Herzog, our resident engineer. How's it going, Mike?
Doing all right, David. Glad to be here again. We
Looks
made
like
it.
you're not in the
Day's
Caribbean
over.
today.
Nope. No, just the sun's shining here, so I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining.
Yep, sun's shining and 49 degrees outside.
Yeah,
Yep, it
feels like
looks like
November.
summer is finally over. We'll have our brief fall, and who knows where things will go on from that. Well, I'm sure people are going to be happy to not have any more political ads on their TV for a while now. So that there's certainly that joy that the election
That,
brought.
I haven't gotten a random text message yet today. I haven't received random phone calls and different numbers coming through. So yeah, that's at least one thing I think everybody can agree on. Like, no, just take it easy on those for a minute. We'll be all right.
Well, I've got a couple things we're going to talk about today. We may not normally on the stock market is absolutely ripping this morning, and as is Bitcoin. Bitcoin hit an all-time high last night. Broke $75,000. And it's just interesting to see. Bitcoin was like what $14,000 a year or so ago. I mean, it's really hard to fathom how it fluctuates so much. But I see some big changes coming on with, obviously, the big news is we have a new president for next year, and we're going to have some discussion about what maybe we think we might see change or not change.
You went quiet there again. There you
go. I had a random phone call.
Oh. Just as we're saying.
Yeah, I'd probably want to sell me a car warranty. Anyways, and we saw you were live. We thought you might need an extended warranty on your car. Yeah. But anyways, so we got a few things to discuss. We're going to discuss Ethiopia a little bit again today. That was about there wasn't really a lot of true electric vehicle news today, and so that's a little different. But we do have some things going on, and we'll see where that's going today. Anyways,
yeah, I think not super surprised. Not a lot of dedicated EV articles. I think it's everybody's just catching their breath, and you're going to figure out today and tomorrow and the next day, and I think it'll be interesting, right? I think it's you and I were talking before this. It's just I don't see EVs slowing down. I don't see that space slowing down. When one of your big partners is heading the largest EV company in the world. I mean, I don't see a lot happening. That's going to be negative.
I don't see it being that negative. Well, I think one of the things is we've had incentives from the government here in the United States, and the incentives certainly help, right? But I think that in some parts of the business, so battery production definitely needs incentives still. Okay, so there needs to be investment in battery production, things like that to make things happen. But as far as EVs selling, I think they're getting close to being at a point where they just stand on their own.
Yep.
The one thing, obviously, in the used EV space, that $4,000 tax credit is just, there's so many cars selling for exactly $25,000 on the used side. It's ridiculous. Okay. So, EVs priced at, if you go looking for a used Model Y, they all sit around $29,000, and they just never quite, if one of them hits that 25,000 mark, they're just gone. They just never hit. They never hit because the dealers already have buyers just waiting to grab a Model Y if it would ever hit that point. But you see them all just kind of sitting there just out of the reach. I think you probably have to let a dealer know you want a Model Y that's capable of being bought at 25,000 to have it happen. Because I've seen one ever.
Otherwise,
yeah. I forget what the dude in Salt Lake put one up at 25,000 one day, and it was sold in minutes. And I'm sure he had all kinds of people clamoring for that. So I'm sure they're hunting for those constantly. But
Mhm.
anyways, so the big thing today with the news, and obviously we're in the electric vehicle space, how is this going to impact electric vehicle sales going forward? There's this article from the Chicago Tribune, and it's saying that um, they're all the rage in certain parts of the world, but how is this going to change? I mean, there's people that have both,
Mhm.
EVs, gas, whatever. Um, the 2023 annual increase was 46% over the year before. But year over year growth to 24 was only about 11%. It's certainly slowed down. What have we had? And we've had 1.2 million electric cars sold in 2023. And I'm just trying to get to the article I sort of scanning was kind of, it jumps around a lot.
Yeah.
And it,
I think it's nice they're putting it out. It's kind of funny somebody put one out already. I wouldn't expect that, but it's what we've seen before. It's still increasing. Is the rate of increase as fast? No, that's slowing down a little bit, but it's still an upward trend. And
well,
it's same song and dance every month, like year over year sales. Like, yeah, they're still up. It's still up.
well, what I think you're going to see, I think you're going to see people in general buying more cars. Okay, I think you're going to see consumer optimism under the new administration go up. So what's going to happen is people are going to be a little less afraid to spend money. Now, what's the negative to that? Do you know in economics? If consumers are spending money, what's going to be the negative to that?
If everybody's spending money,
If
well, it's
everybody's spending
inflation.
their money,
Yeah.
right? Then inflation
Yeah.
is going to come back again. Okay, so there's it's sort of a catch-22 there. Okay, so what's going to happen is consumer optimism is going to improve. People are going to spend money. What's going to happen is the interest rates are not going to come down. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so but I think what you're going to have happen is, like we've talked before, full-size pickup trucks stacked up on lots everywhere. Okay, because
Yep.
they're just priced out of people's range. And I think now what you may see is people jump back into that again. One of the things though that changed, there's this thing in the IRS code called the Section 179 deduction, and it used to be 100% write-off for those full-size pickup trucks. Currently, in the current year, I think it's only 60% that you can write off in the first year, and that keeps reducing. So as that keeps reducing, I think it's harder to sell those insanely high-priced
Yeah, those big prices.
vehicles.
That's
Right, and that
that's
was a big
huge.
part of it. Yeah, because you see
Yeah.
like contractors and stuff, every year they're in a new full-size truck. They don't get rid of the old one. They just keep
Mhm.
stacking up more big
Yeah.
trucks, and a lot of it is because it's an immediate write-off.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's just one of those behind the scenes. I'm sure if you do that and you've been purchasing those for years, but somebody in my space who sees that, like, I wouldn't have thought that. That makes a lot of sense that the tax code changed all of a sudden. So yeah, it's going to slow sales on those very quickly.
No, and it was specifically catered to vehicles over 6,000 pounds.
Yeah, yeah. A work
Okay,
truck. I mean, it's a big
right,
old work truck.
and yeah, you couldn't have less than I'm trying to remember if it was a 5-foot bed was the minimum, and so that's what you'd see. You'd see all those super cabs with a 5-foot bed,
Hmm.
and so it really fit. But a lot of your big SUVs, your Tahoes, your Suburbans, they all qualified for it too.
Oh,
And
really?
so, oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just pickup trucks. Yeah. So, anyways, this is one of the reasons, and it's funny because we talk about America's love of big SUVs, but we also have a lot of small businesses in the United States, and a lot of people who qualify for that Section 179 deduction.
Hmm.
Okay. If you think about it, a lot of your physicians, a lot of your lawyers, they're all independent contractors. Okay. They're not on salary. So if they're independent contractors, they all can somehow try to figure out how to make a vehicle work as part of their business.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And that's what you see. Sometimes they may have to have you don't ever see any doctors or lawyers advertising their business on the side of a vehicle, but somehow
They
they're
have
figuring
to.
out
There
how to
has
make
to
that
be a
used for
tie.
the
Yeah,
business. Yeah, there
yeah.
has to be a tie. It can't really be you can if you use it for personally, you have to filter that percentage
You actually,
back.
yeah, yeah. It's similar
Yeah,
similar to a lot of stuff with business. Yeah,
right.
it's
Yeah.
you get
So
figure out your usage of it.
But I think what you're going to see is you're going to see consumer optimism. You're going to see improvements. And one of the things, while we may see the electric vehicle mandates change, they're not going to change for California because that's California, not federal, right? There's a few states that have adopted some mandates. At the federal level, though, you're not going to have any mandates. And that was one
No.
thing the Biden administration had been trying to put in some mandates. And but I believe that I don't think you're going to see the incentives go away. I don't think you're going to see the
I don't.
$7,500 thing go away.
I don't
I've
think
seen
so either.
some theories.
Yeah, I don't
There,
see
there's
that change.
there's a leasing loophole for $7,500 if you lease vehicles that aren't eligible. That may go away. But that's probably a good thing because it's being used to skirt. It's being used to skirt the requirements for where the EV batteries are made. And yeah, I think there's no question he's going to get rid of the mandates. He's already said that he can executive action that on day one. So that's a little bit different. So because the mandates were by executive action, they weren't by law. So that's definitely going to change. I like his little icon.
There you go. Yeah, no, and I think we've talked about it even leading up to it. I don't mandates are going to go. At the state level, if states pass that within their own legislation, I think you could still see a lot of that. But federal incentives, what all of that looks like in the coming years, I don't know, but I would anticipate just with the jobs that EVs are creating, with the new markets that they're creating.
Right.
I think we want to keep that going. I mean, I would see a new administration wanting to keep that going as well. So
Well, the Carolinas and Georgia.
Yeah.
The Carolinas and Georgia have benefited massively from jobs, investment from the Inflation Reduction Act. We talk about this all the time. It's like it was poorly named act, but it's had great benefit for several Republican states. 90% of the, 140,000 jobs or something that's created so far have gone into Republican states.
In those states, yeah.
Yeah, and states with right to work that are harder, that aren't as friendly to the unions. And nice. Well, we appreciate you watching. Anyways, so I just don't see some of that ending. The governors of these states are going to be just like, and they didn't know. They didn't know they were going to get all this investment. I mean, it's one of the problems with our system is that they write these incredibly huge bills. Nobody really knows what's going on. And next thing you know, there's something new in the code. And, I listened to.
They have done, and I'll speak to this for sure. All of the money that has come out, it has been so poorly advertised, for lack of a better phrase, of what the heck it is. It's out there. It's we're in Nebraska here, and every week, not every week, but every month, here's another $50 million grant that's coming out that the state just received. Here's another $75 million. Okay, what's that one for? How's that one different than the one we just got? Can I use both of them at the same time? All of those things. It's just a very, it's very confusing. He's a streamer, he's a YouTuber. There you go. Yeah. I hear that one all the time. But no, I don't know. It's going to be hard to stop that momentum, and with all the announcements too of the new battery plants that are getting built, the new Tesla factories getting built. We want to keep selling cars. We want those cars built here. We want them sourced here. We want that to happen if we're going to compete in the global market with it.
Well, I'm going to share some things going on in the economy that are very interesting today. And now Bitcoin tends to follow the NASDAQ. Okay, so it's really interesting. If you invest in stocks and Bitcoin is going up, your stocks are probably going up. If you're investing in stocks and Bitcoin's going down, you're probably doing the same thing. Let me see where we got to. Our high, I think, was 75,273. So that's all-time high for Bitcoin. Yeah, that was this morning. So once it was determined that you can see where Bitcoin ripped from yesterday, it shot up from 70 to 74,000. Actually, yesterday it was down as low as about 67,000
Mm-hmm.
and went up to 75. I mean, that's a big jump for one day. And Bitcoin's a pretty good estimator. So there's actually talk, Trump even talked about having a national Bitcoin reserve. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see. I saw an interesting article recently, and this was a bipartisan thing. There's both Democrats and Republicans looking for a way to fund Social Security in the future. And one of the ideas being tossed around is a sovereign wealth fund for the United States, much like, so it's interesting, a lot of your American Indian tribes, like we have Ho-Chunk here, they have what's called a sovereign wealth fund for the Ho-Chunk tribe. Okay. And this is something that a lot of other countries like Norway, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, they all have these sovereign wealth funds. And the idea is to use the investments and everything from the sovereign wealth fund to bolster Social Security. So use a lot of our natural resources and things like that in the United States to help raise that up. And currently, the only nationalized business in the United States is the Fed.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's it's interesting to kind of see how some of that plays out. But I just wanted to share that about Bitcoin before I go showing some other stuff. And this is, I'm going to show some stocks in the electric vehicle space. I'm going to start with Rivian. Now, for some reason, Rivian's down 10% today. That one I can't really explain because most of the stock market is ripping. If you look over here to the side, Tesla is up 14% today. They are rocketing.
I'm surprised it's that low. I know that's a crazy jump, but I would think that one would just destroy it. 15% in the morning is not bad, but
no, but still, that's a huge jump. Now here's NIO. NIO, being a Chinese electric vehicle stock, it's down 6%. And I've seen a couple of other Chinese stocks. The Chinese stocks suffered with the Trump win, and like Amazon up 3%. That's a pretty big jump even for Amazon at 3% for one day. Lucid is down 8% to $2. What a bargain. Holy crap, Lucid's a bargain at $2. Anyways, it's interesting to see where some of this is going. But I'm going to pull up just Tesla.
The little bit we've looked at it before, it seems like when one EV stock's doing well, they're all doing well.
Generally, that's generally been the case, is that they've all followed Tesla
down and to see Lucid down. Wonder if that's a split. People are betting on Tesla.
Well, here we get kind of interesting because here let's look at Nvidia. Nvidia is one of the biggest market cap companies right now, and they're up almost 4% today. But then here you got BYD, which is a Chinese company, down 2%, just like NIO. Apple's up a little bit, and then BMW is down 6.5%, a European stock. And it's just interesting to see where this space is sitting at. I think some of it is optimism in Musk. I mean, he's pulled off this situation where he's going to be the Doge. The Doge used to be the leader, I think, of Venice, in Italy, of the Venetians. So he's going to be the Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency. Anyways, it's interesting to see the optimism you see in the stock market. And I was telling you before the show, in 2012, I really saw the pessimism and the lack of money available, particularly in real estate for investment purposes. In 2016, when Trump was elected, the bankers went nuts. They felt so much better with so much optimism among people in the banking industry. They made it a lot easier to start construction projects and remodel houses. Just made it a whole lot more money available to investors to be able to go out and do things. Now, when 2020 hit, we were in COVID. Okay, so things were already things had already started getting bad simply because of COVID, never mind the election. But you saw this, pessimism that came, and I think we're going to see huge optimism again.
It's one day, but I already saw it on day one. I don't follow stocks closer to I'm aware, but one thing they noted out there too was uh, future interest. Interest rates, people lending money, the futures in those are way up. So there's that expectation that we're going to borrow money. The U.S. is going to borrow money. People are going to be borrowing money. Companies are going to be borrowing money again. I think that's going to drive a lot of it, which is, yeah, we're 5 hours into it since the opening bell or when we've been at. So we're just going to have to watch and see. But no, it's just in that short of time, it's nice to see an EV stock go up. A little worried about that, but
so
I don't know.
Tommy here is asking about big BYD and how it affects U.S. automakers. So this is a big thing. So BYD produces more cars than even Tesla, and their goal is to unseat Toyota as the biggest automaker in the world. Well, in the United States, a lot of us seem to have this belief that the world is the United States, and we forget that the rest of the world even exists. And while population-wise, we're like 5% of the planet, so we're like 1/20th of it, BYD is going to absolutely dominate the rest of the world. It may take a few years for them to pass up Toyota, but they're so far ahead in electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids that it's a little bit nuts. Now, Toyota is a leader in just hybrids, but not plug-in hybrids. And that's a space that BYD sits in. So while Ford, GM, and Stellantis are big overseas and in foreign markets, BYD is eating into their market share extensively. So it's going to eventually hurt those companies a lot. Okay. People always talk about trying to compare them to Tesla, but
that's not
Tesla and BYD aren't really worried about each other. They're taking market share from other companies.
Yep.
So it's a completely different viewpoint.
It's a different model in the Indian market, the Chinese market, the African market that are all coming up. I mean, that's where BYD is going to really, really take off. I mean, they have already, and that's what's been fun about doing this show for more than a year now is watching BYD in that space and what they're doing, and it's just continually new BYD news. BYD announces this. BYD announces a $10,000 vehicle. They're doing big things, and I think we've said it on here before. I mean, China's the major leagues in EVs. Right. I mean, they really are. Aside from Tesla, I mean, they are dominating. I mean, they've gone full force into it, both feet in. They're taking over that space for sure.
Yeah, so it's just kind of interesting to see and speculate on some things that are going to happen. I think that you're going to see Tesla keep growing, and there was news today that GM has passed up Ford as the number 2 seller of EVs in the United States. And GM has rapidly expanded their lineup in 2024 and for 2025. And so I think much more than Ford. I mean, Ford basically, you got the Proline van, you got the Mach-E and the F-150. GM has too many to count. I mean, they've probably got 7 or 8 EVs now. So while they discontinued the Bolt, it may be back. They need to bring it back. They really need to bring it back. But you've got a couple of their SUVs. You've got both their full-size pickup trucks, the Silverado, the GM version and the Chevy version, and then you've got the Hummer. I'm just saying there's quite a few amongst the Chevy and GM lines. So it makes sense that they should be getting something going there. One questionable thing is whether Trump may kill the NEVI program. Now, the NEVI program is the one where 8 chargers have been built, and all this money, they set aside $7.5 billion. They try to act like that money was spent, but the money wasn't spent. They might have spent $1 million of that $7.5 billion. It's just been set aside. Now, the thing is, Tesla benefits from the NEVI program too. So it's
Yep.
just a matter of where they add the chargers. So who knows? Who knows if that stays? I think it was a good move for Musk to.
It is, and so for everybody else, Nevi, that's the infrastructure corridor. That's the charging corridor across the U.S. where we need to have a path along interstates and all the major ones where every 50 miles, or something like that, you have to have a charging station. And yeah, we in our state, actually, the first round of bidding just closed yesterday on charging locations, and maybe one or two states have actually started to build things. Otherwise, everybody's just in planning, where are we going to put it, everything like that. So yeah, to your point, that money is not spent. They're going for it. People know what they have, and they're writing the proposals and getting it figured out. But it's just been like all the other funding programs out there. People are trying to figure out how the hell to spend it and get it out there and what it means and what they're doing with it.
I've seen so much criticism in conservative news of the fact that they act like they spent $1 billion a charger to put in those 8 chargers, when in reality it's like, no, they might have spent 150,000 a charger. They just haven't spent that money, and it's because the process was complicated to put this stuff in, and this stuff takes time, and it's really, I think this kind of stuff happens faster in Europe. Europe is a much more advanced in charging station infrastructure than the United States is, and it's just something that we're lagging behind on.
Yeah, if you've ever filled out a federal grant application or spent federal dollars, like you know why, man, those are slow moving, complicated beasts. So it's I get why it's taking time. I think they're ready. At least around here, they're ready. I think we're going to start seeing more and more of it, but it's a year later than everybody thought it was going to be.
All right, so let's move on to our other topic, because I really didn't have a lot of topics to go over today. So Ethiopia's hasty ban on gasoline vehicles has had a strange effect on EV market. Now, you and I covered Ethiopia, I guess it was last year. I think it was last year. And we had a lot of response on that episode, because Ethiopia was the first country in the world to ban the importation of gas cars. They don't even let diplomats who are coming in for embassies bring their own gas cars into the country. They can only bring EVs. Yep, has to be EVs. And wide EV adoption attempts are commonplace in today's automotive news. Now, California is still trying to be zero emission by 2035. Jaguar is planning on going fully electric by next year. Jaguar is going really big into electric vehicles, which is something that's kind of spreading. The funny thing is, you don't really hear much about Jaguar EVs, but you hear about Waymo, right? You hear about we hear news about Waymo all the time. Those are all Jaguars.
Are they really?
They're only Jaguars. That's their only brand.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So
once again, I've been doing this for a year with you, and I don't know if we've talked about Jaguar once. Everything in there. It just really doesn't come up in that space.
No,
so
there's never Jaguar news.
Mm-mm.
No, it's kind of interesting, but I know that all the Waymos are Jaguars, and it's interesting that they chose that for who they would be their partner, but it costs them. Now, this is because of Jaguar, but a Waymo vehicle that goes online to actually, they've spent $300,000 per car putting those out there. Whoa. So I guess if you're going to spend that much, you might as well have it in a luxury brand, right?
Yeah. Might as well be comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, but going back to Ethiopia went a little further. They banned the import of non-electric private vehicles in January, along with an 8% increase in fuel costs. Now, one of the reasons they did that was Ethiopia is not energy independent. They have to import all their gas, and they want to get away from that. Okay, they feel it causes issues where they're not in control of their own government because of gas. And this is a big thing. This is, one of the reasons why one of the political parties has talked a lot about energy independence for the United States. We don't want to be dependent on these other countries. And I think this is something that if you are a country and you can be energy independent, you would want it. This is why I've talked about solar and batteries for some of these African countries that are optimal for solar and all this, that could get them, to be less dependent on neighboring countries, because it seems very easy for regions of Africa to become destabilized, right? And
It's very, very different in that space, and it's especially if you're doing great things, your neighbor might not be. It's we import a lot of gasoline from them. We import a lot of diesel. Like
right, yeah. So, anyways, the Ethiopia's decision was partly to embrace the growing transition to greener propulsion alternatives and ease the pressure of spending foreign currency to subsidize fuel costs. Well, there's another big issue. A new dam being built along the Nile River is expected to be completed by 2030 and provide 5 gigawatts. It says 5,000 megawatts of power for the EV transition.
Yeah, gigawatts.
So they right now, they're importing 100,000 EVs per month.
Ethiopia?
What the hell? This I don't know if this news article is correct. It says over 100,000 electric cars. No, it says per month. It has to be per year. There's no way. There's no way, because the United States only does that many cars per month.
We talked about it last year. We said one of the reasons they can do it is they don't have 300 cars on the road. I mean, it's a much smaller number to start with.
Yeah, I'm looking at autoblog.com for some of this information, and it's 100,000 cars a year, not per month, because it says the target is 500,000 cars by 2030. So yeah, that I'm like, that would have been like 6 million cars. Yeah. I was like, what? Yeah, I don't think they have 100,000 cars in the whole. I think I remember seeing some number that like 2/3 of all of the gas-powered cars in Ethiopia are taxis. So it wasn't really a big number. Now, they've discovered they don't have enough parts or mechanics to fix new EVs. Problems tied to electricity issues, along with lack of spare parts and trained mechanics to fix the newly imported EVs. Few mechanics have the know-how to address the car's issues, or reportedly overwhelmed with demand and customers claiming they're being overcharged. Well, that's not really a surprise. I'm sure.
If you're the only game in town, you get charged what you want.
So one of my kids was in an accident a week ago in a Toyota Corolla. Okay. And we took it in to get an estimate, and it's drivable. The rear end is damaged. $8,000 is the minimum estimate before they take it apart. If they said they can't even order parts for it until they disassemble it, because if there's anything else wrong, State Farm will total the car out. I mean, because it was so much.
Drivable still?
It's still drivable.
And $8,000 to fix a Corolla.
Yeah. Now the trunk is being held down with like what are the stretchy bands? Bungee cords. Yeah. And there's some pieces that we bungee cord, and we got like pallet wrap covering, make it waterproof to kind of hold the car together. But otherwise it drives safely. Yeah, it drives safely, but it has this damage. And I'm just like, forget electric vehicles being expensive to repair. The thing is, though, I'm kind of hoping it gets totaled out so we can put them in an EV.
Yeah.
But
well, at that point, that's I'm not fixing that for $8,000. Good Lord.
Yeah, I'm just like, wow. I really can't imagine that is where it's at, because I think the car is probably worth about 15, kind of thing. Anyways, just staggering that everything costs so much with cars right now. Let's see. One of the complaints for Ethiopia was many of the parts required for repairs must be imported from China, leading to many EVs laying idle in garages. Well, I suppose you're going to have issues with anything. The market is being flooded with cheap Chinese-made electric vehicles, many of which have a mechanical problems, either cost more than the entire car or that can just outright not be fixed. The thing is, you've got China now making some EVs that only sell for like $4,000.
Mm-hmm.
There's this one website, and I can't remember which one it is, but they have the like weird Chinese EV of the week, and they'll do an article about some strange Chinese EV. Like they've had things that were like a little mini food truck or something, just might be 3 wheels, 2 wheels, 4 wheels, but there's always just something strange coming out of China every week as a new electric vehicle. You have like 100 companies making electric vehicles in China. Compared to the United States, we've got like 10, maybe. And it's just really hard to fathom some of the creative and cheap designs they're
I mean,
coming up
at
with.
some point, it's just a golf cart, right? I mean, yeah,
Right.
I've got a new EV that's street ready. It's got doors on it to keep me a little bit warmer and keep the rain off, but it's a golf cart. I mean, that's what they're
Yeah.
building.
Well, there was this one that we saw a year ago that was from Russia that looked something like it was a vehicle from the Cars cartoon, and
Yeah.
it was a quad cycle. So it had 4 bicycle tires, and but it had a chassis over it, kind of like the Elf,
Mhm.
but it really looked like a cartoon car from that. And it was probably the ugliest car I've ever seen. I mean, it was absolutely, it made the Chevy Bolt look cool. Okay. Or the Nissan Leaf look really stylish. I mean, it's one of those things where you'd be really happy to have one of those as opposed to the other.
Yeah,
Not
whatever that
criticizing
is.
anybody out there that has a Chevy Bolt and just loves it. I know people that love the Chevy Bolt. I don't think they're pretty at all. Okay. But we each have our own opinion, right? We're all entitled to our own opinion. Um, you Anyways, um, it's saying many Ethiopians are turning to the secondhand market, buying cars that are decades older but more reliable and easier to repair. Well, you could kind of look back at like Cuba, right? So
Yeah,
Cuba, they're all driving around these
because
1950s
that's what
American automobiles, and they're running them with engines from China and Japan and other places because they can't get parts from the United States.
Yep.
The truth is, companies in the United States probably don't make any parts for those cars
Not
anymore because
anymore. No,
they're
no.
they're so
Yeah,
old.
when embargo started in the 50s or 60s, whenever that was. So
Early
it's
60s, yeah.
yeah, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, so they haven't been able to get parts. But anyways, the Ethiopian government's solution might come too late. They plan to address current issues by investing in public charging stations as well as a local plant to manufacture EV batteries themselves. Those kind of initiatives can take years, though, and many Ethiopians are already starting to lose faith in the green transition. Like we were saying before, not many people in Ethiopia own a damn car. I think
Yeah.
when we looked at it originally, it was something like 3% of the population owned a car.
Very
It was
small.
really a small number. And so I just can't see that it's, this author is somebody from Romania. They're trying to criticize Ethiopia's transition. The truth is, if there's that few people driving cars already, I don't know if it really makes that big of a difference. You look at the United States
It's
as
all the supply chain too, right? I mean, that's
right.
what they're getting figured out. It's just they didn't figure out the supply chain before they passed it, and it'll develop as the market develops.
Well, the U.S. is as far as four-wheeled vehicles, we're the most motorized country on the planet. I mean, nobody else is even close. Other countries have lots of 2 and 3-wheel options, even
Mhm.
if it's bicycles. I like riding a bike, but damn, it's dangerous to ride a bicycle around here.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No,
I
yeah,
mean,
it's not made
I,
for it. Yeah, and it's very dangerous along the side of a street or highway. Yeah.
I've had ankle problems my whole life from being hit by a drunk driver while riding a bicycle. So you know, uh, I'm all too aware of the dangers of riding a bike here, but it's just weird to see. But in other countries, it's so common to
Mhm.
ride public transportation or ride a 2-wheeler or 3-wheeler. Anyways, Mike, that was all I had for today. Good show. Appreciate you being on. And folks, I
Yeah,
appreciate
we'll
you
see
watching.
what develops in the next couple of weeks and months and years, and we'll be there.
Yeah. Anyways, I'll be back tomorrow with Bill, and Mike will be back with me next Wednesday. Otherwise, folks, have a great day. I'm going to cut the show.